82-78, Colorado is bounced in the second round of the Pac-12 Tournament by Arizona here at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Adam Munsterteiger here with William Whelan and Ryan Koenigsberg. This is the post-game wrap-up brought to you by the Blake Street Tavern. Ryan, if I told you going into this game that Colorado was going to score 58 points in the second half, you would have thought the Buffs would have walked away with the win here.
Yeah, that's a lot of points to score in a half. And truly, it was a really impressive comeback because obviously they scored that many points trying to dig themselves out of a deep hole they put them in the first half. Arizona takes a 37-20 lead into the half, and it felt like the Buffs were kind of dead in the water. They fight, they hang on, they claw, they scratch, and it kind of felt like they were either going to make a run or get blown out. And there was a while in there where they were in limbo, and they finally made that run, made this thing interesting. And it's weird because, obviously you're disappointed. Tad Boyle said they came into this tournament feeling like they could really win it. But as Tad Boyle walks off the court, he waves to the fans and gets a big ovation. Everyone was really proud of this team, and the comeback that they made, scoring 58 points against a team like Arizona in the second half, really impressive. And I feel like, they want to show that they're disappointed, but I feel like everyone is feeling pretty good about the way the team played in this tournament and the way that they're heading into the true postseason.
There were 56 fouls in this basketball game, but Tad Boyle didn't think his team got enough of those calls.
Not nearly enough, certainly in his view. And you saw throughout the second half, Tad Boyle was very animated with the officials tonight. There were a handful of times where Ryan and you and I were talking, and we thought that he was just begging to get a technical foul. And quite frankly, I'm very surprised that he didn't get one, because I thought that a technical for him, in his view, was what his team needed fire-wise, because they were hanging on, but they hadn't quite gotten emotionally in it yet. They kind of seemed to be teetering on the edge, but nonetheless, he said in his post-game how important this game was in terms of getting to the line. He really wanted to get Arizona into foul trouble, because Arizona's not a tremendously deep team. Certainly, at least from Tad Boyle's perspective, that's why you want to get teams in foul trouble. And he knew that their half-court defense was going to be difficult. I think that especially as the game wore on, you could see that this team was really attacking the basket, get fouled, get to the lane. And I think that in some ways that can help you get through a really bad offensive stretch. But what I started to think at some point was that game plan kind of took Colorado out of what they do best, which is drive, kick, come off screens, catch, shoot. Nobody really seemed ready to catch and shoot until about halfway through the second half. So I certainly agree with Boyle. I didn't think that the Colorado Buffaloes got a favorable whistle today. They certainly got what felt like a road whistle in what felt like a road environment. But, I mean, at this point, when you play a second half like that, yeah, I don't think that they attacked it the way they could have all game. But when you score 58 points, you cut a 17-point halftime deficit to 2 points. You're kind of you nitpick a little bit when you try to criticize too much. There's plenty to criticize given that first half, but nonetheless, I thought that his plan offensively in the second half really did kind of come together for Colorado.
So Colorado comes out to Las Vegas. They dominate Washington State. They play a very good Arizona team tough. I'm going to ask both you guys whether you think their trip to Las Vegas was overall a success and what your expectations are. Is this an 8 seed going into Selection Sunday?
Yeah, to answer your first question, I think it was a positive trip. To get that blowout, that 40-minute game against Washington State, I think it was a really big confidence builder for them. And then to back it up with, showing that you can fight out of that deficit and really showing that you can really go toe-to-toe with a team like Arizona on a neutral floor. If it wasn't for that shaky start and a little caught off guard by the environment maybe, I think the Buffaloes could have won this game. So they leave feeling like I've kind of felt all season, which is that they can beat anyone. And now they've done it on a neutral court and played with a team on a neutral court. And it's not just that feeling that, we can just beat anyone at home. It's, we played well enough. We showed that we have the horses to beat a team like Arizona. We did it on the road. I think, somewhere in the 8 seed range is probably a safe bet for them. I know yesterday we saw them as high as a 7. That would be really nice if they can get that. We saw 7 in St. Louis. That would be really, really nice if they could get that. It'll be interesting to see where they end up. Tad Boyle, of course, wouldn't go as far as to say they're a lock, because he knows how quickly that can change and how you can look kind of get egg on your face there. So, he says he believes they are, but it's out of his control. It is out of his control now, but they're a tournament team.
Fortunately for them, obviously a much better resume this year overall than when they got snubbed. Will, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time calling this trip a success because I think what they showed today was a different storyline, but in the end, a similar result to what we've seen twice on the road before. They opened the season against a talented Iowa State team, and they compete. They ultimately do fall. They compete for what felt like 37, 38 minutes against SMU and ultimately do fall in that game as well. And then they compete tonight for about really 18 minutes. They played an 18-minute game and lost by 4, so that it's encouraging. But you're still 0-3 in big neutral core games. Washington State, that's not a big neutral site game. That's a given, and it should be a given. I'm not discouraged by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just not ready to call this trip a success. Now, with that said, from the certain perspective, this tournament really didn't matter that much. I mean, as long as you beat Washington State, you're in the NCAA tournament, and if you're not, it's a travesty, certainly. But to me, this is where the real season starts, because last season there was no momentum when the final buzzer of the final game sounded. The program was a mess, and you come into this season, a couple seniors, a big senior, Josh Scott. You have some new faces. Everybody's kind of stepped up their roles a little bit, and you're back in the tournament. Now's the time to kind of get back to where you were a couple years ago and get that momentum back. You got to win your first game. I know matchups are crazy in the NCAA tournament, but for this season to be a success, a smashing success, a win in the NCAA tournament would go a long way. With that said, I didn't see them being in the tournament before the year. I do think they've overachieved, but now that you're here, why not get some work done? If you're here, do it. I think that's what Colorado needs to take the next step and really go into this offseason with a lot of momentum.
In the 2 games out here in Las Vegas, George King scored a combined 43 points. One player that struggled out here, and he struggled at times during the sophomore season, is Dominique Collier. More personal fouls in these 2 games than he had points. Will, you got really close to Dominique Collier during his recruiting process. What's your take, big picture-wise, and out here in Vegas with him?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a piece for BSN Denver earlier this season about looking for the look out of Dominique Collier. He had a swagger about him in high school, and really good high school players, I mean, everywhere have that swagger to them. It doesn't always translate to the college level, and I get that. But for Dominique, what I see is a player that has lost his confidence in certain ways. Defensively, I mean, he's so pestered by his foul trouble that I think he's totally lost focus. I mean, he's lunging in with his shoulder after overcommitting on ball screens time after time after time. That's probably his most common foul, is when he overcommits. The guy dismisses the screen, and then he has to kind of shoulder in and reach. To me, it's a guy not learning from his mistakes and growing from that and kind of getting caught up in that. Dom has really improved his shot the last few years. There's no doubt. He was a volume 30% three-point shooter in high school, and now he's over 40% for a full season, taking a good amount of shots. There's progress there. I think we're waiting to see that jump, where Dominique Collier solidifies himself as a true starting point guard, because you could make a case certainly that he might have struggled more than any other starting point guard in the conference this season. And to me, it's not physical. I know he's slight of frame, but he's getting to spots night in and night out. He's knocking down open shots night in and night out. The thing left for him is mentally, is really having the game start to make sense for him. And until he does that, he's going to continue to put up performances that Colorado fans are really divided on. I mean, advanced statistics at times show him to be very good. At other times, his turnover rate to usage rate is borderline horrific. He's a hot and cold player. And if it's going to be hot more often than not, he's got to get it together mentally. I think he can. He's got a really good supporting cast around him. He's home in Denver. He can get, obviously, the support he needs from family. But ultimately, if it doesn't show up on game day, it's all for naught.
A couple lighthearted moments in the post-game press conference. It's been 4 years since the Sabatino-Chen shot was ruled not good, and yet we're still hearing about it from the Buffs.
Yeah, Josh Scott made a point to say that, you know, they did beat Arizona another time during his career when reflecting on it. And then Tad, you know, completely is asked another question, and he goes, you know, just to tail back real quick, Sab's shot did count, just for the record, and it did. So, you know, it was a good shot. Everyone can agree on that.
Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott's right behind us. Maybe we should ask him how he feels about that. Hey, Larry. Maybe not. Maybe tomorrow.
Well, Will, it's been great to see you out here.
It's been
Thanks
great
for
to
your
be back here.
contributions.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.